Just to do the, would you hit that box for me, please, Santosh? There's a little white box there. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we're in the 18th verse and verse 14, where we're looking at various dimensions of life through the lens of the three Buddhas. So will you help us out, please, Deepa?
Yeah, and I have a bookmark now. We did half of verse 14 last time.
Let's start over again.
Good.
Get it done. Right.
Adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prithakvidam vividhascha prithak chekshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. The seat or the body, the doer or the ego, the various organs of perception, the different functions of various organs of action, and also the presiding deity, the fifth.
Okay, this is our equipment. This is the anatman. This is prakriti. This is the not self. So let's again go through, and this is the seed of egoism, is my identification with it. So let's go through each of these pieces. So what was the first one? The body itself?
The body or the seat.
The body is the mula, the root, I think is what it said, didn't it?
Adhishtanam.
Adhishtanam. That which stands at the beginning. Adi means the beginning of a series, and sta, tishtati is to stand. So the beginning of it all is I think I'm my body. So what we're dealing with is a phenomenon called adhyasa. Did we go into this last week?
We did the body and the ego.
But adhyasa, did we talk about that?
I think so.
Adhyasa means superimposition. So because of ignorance, I superimpose upon the self the qualities of the not self. And the bija vasana, the root of it all, is I think I'm the body. What we want to do is come to see that the body is an object of cognition. When you were a child, you had a little body. When you went through adolescence, the body changed. Now you're an adult, the body is changed again. You go on a diet, the body gets skinny. You eat too much, the body gets fat. But do you not know the changes in the body? I am not the body. Next idea.
The doer or the ego.
Yes. Karta. In the Vijnanamaya Kosha, in that particular part of our subtle intellect, there is the sense that I am the doer, Karta, and the experiencer, Bhokta. This is where this adhyasa, this ignorance takes place. Now, this is a secret. The ego sense is not evil. You could not move throughout the world without it. For example, Santosh, did you take the BART over here? And did you have lunch today? Yes?
Yes.
So it feels like it's the same person who had lunch who came over here on the BART. That's karta. That's the sense of doer. There are people whose ahankriti, karta, ego sense is broken. We call them schizophrenics. You know how inside you have kind of an inner dialogue going on? Oh my gosh, did I remember to turn the oven off? Or, oh golly, tomorrow I've got to do blah, 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 blah. You know that voice that goes by inside your mind? Everybody has it. But for a schizophrenic, it seems like it's coming from the outside. God told me I'm supposed to murder people. It's broken. Or we have the phenomenon of multiple personalities. So that karta can be broken. What we need to know is I am not the doer. It is a function in the subtle intellect. It thickens when all of a sudden I become self with a small s, obsessed. How am I doing? Am I okay? What do they think of me? It thins when I'm engaged in a project. And I'm not thinking about my small self. But I see it thicken and thin. How could it be me? I see it shift and change. Next idea.
Sorry.
Question?
Yes, Jim. I was wondering, so the ego sense you're saying is the doer, but it's also like you need to know you're not the doer. Can you just explain that a bit more?
Yes. So what in fact is the doer? If we go back to chapter 5, we go into this in depth. Gita says the agent is guna and karma. Guna meaning the qualities of mind and the force of the past. So using Santosh as an example, at some point he probably said, I want to have lunch. Did you make lunch or did you go out?
I went out.
You went out. Why didn't you make lunch? You made a choice.
Yeah.
But why? Why? So yes, we experience choice. No one ever denies that. But where do those choices come from? And Gita says it's the qualities of our mind and the force of the past maturing. So all it is. There's no real person there. There's no entity called Jim or Divya or Santosh. Doesn't exist. It's a function in the intellect.
You can make better choices if you are more of a sattvic mind, from what you're describing.
Who's making the choice? Is it the self?
The ego sense.
Yeah. And having a sattvic mind is guna.
Mhm.
If you have a more sattvic mind, you're liable to make better choices.
Yeah.
It's guna and karma. That's the agent.
So then, are you saying that samadhi is choiceless?
That samadhi is choiceless in the end, yes. Our movement towards God is a lot like puberty. Nobody chooses puberty. But because of puberty, we certainly make a whole lot of choices. You talk to an 8-year-old boy in middle school about kissing girls. Ew, gross. You talk to an 18-year-old boy, very different. Very different. Likewise, we do not choose to be on the spiritual path. That's the dharma within us. It's our spiritual unfoldment. It's our spiritual evolution. Now, that will give us hopefully great comfort. You can't screw it up. This is such an important point. The dharma of a human being is God consciousness. That has two meanings. One, You know yourself all the time. How do you know you? But at the level of the mind is a pleasure-seeking, pain-avoiding mechanism. From the moment you get up in the morning to the moment your head hits the pillow at night, you're only engaged in one activity, seeking the good by your highest understanding of the good and doing your best to avoid misery because it sucks. Are you, anybody doing anything else? Even if you're altruistic, you're doing it because you're seeking the good, as you understand. Even if a mother sacrifices for her children, that's her idea of the good. So the only real question is, where's the good? And it takes lifetimes to figure that one out. In the end, we come to the understanding. All those spiritual books say it's God, it's myself. Maybe I'll give it a shot. But in the end, it's our nature. All coming home. Take it easy. Take it easy. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
We talk about fallen yogis. Oh, don't worry. If they're a fallen yogi, they will suffer. Guess what our response to suffering is? Get me out of it. Isn't that our response to suffering? We change. So this pleasure-seeking, pain-avoiding mechanism that is the essence of the human mind, in the end, is the Dharma. That's the engine that in the end drives us to God. It's really quite wonderful once you see that. Vedanta is the most compassionate of all religions. Christianity, some people go to heaven and some go to hell. Other religions have all sorts of ideas. Oh, you're going to be cast into a lower birth. Oh, you're going to go to Svarga, Brahmalok. But Vedanta says everybody is coming home to God. Like rivers all pouring into the ocean eventually. It's inevitability. Even people we think are the most evil and destructive in the world, through karma, as the inevitable results of the force of our past actions coming back to us. We're not punished for our sins, but we are definitely punished by them. Nobody gets away with anything. All right, next idea.
The different functions of various organs of action.
Okay, so in understanding of yoga and Vedanta, we have 10 sense organs, not 5. We have what we call karamindriyas, which are organs of action. And then we have jnanindriyas, organs of knowledge, sometimes called bhutindriyas. Same thing. So I look at them as energy out, data in. Energy out, the 5 organs of action: hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitals. Data in, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. So here, part of this not self, are all the organs of action and the organs of knowledge going on.
Also the presiding deity, the fifth.
Which is this ego sense, this jiva bhavana, the mind, we can say, which presides over it all. I was going through one of the stories of the Yoga Vasishta with a student today, and they were using the idea there is a great country of infinite vastness, and a great king rules there, and he has a minister. It's very powerful to do anything. Of course, the minister is the mind. And the king who's all powerful is Brahman, it's the self. Or one of my favorite images, where you may have seen paintings of Lord Ram being embraced by Hanuman. And in many of them, Lord Ram is holding him and his face is very neutral. And Hanuman is just in bliss, hugging Ram. So Ram is our essential nature. Hanuman is our mind. That's where our mind belongs, in the embrace of the self, in the embrace of the Next idea.
That's it.
Next verse.
There's a couple of Zoom bloggers trying to join. I can't be sure.
What are their names?
One guy's called Nick Kerr Jones.
If they're late, they lose out. Just leave them out.
Okay.
What happened? Now I'm bounced off.
Shari, Vang.
No, wait, I'm not online anymore, I don't think.
No, you are.
Oh, that's the script.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
Sharira Vang Manoditya. So sorry, Sharir Vang Manoditya Akarma Prarabhate Nara Nyayam Va Viparitam Va Panchayate Tasya Hitava. Whatever action a man performs by his body, speech, and mind, whether right or the reverse, these five are its causes.
So this is the essence of what gets done. So essentially what happens is based on the force of past actions, based on our likes and our dislikes, based on what conducive or non-conducive environments present themselves. I choose to do this, or I choose not to do that. And then the body is impelled into activity. In the end, it's incredibly mechanical. It's incredibly mechanical. Self is a sangha, unattached, always just the witness of all these levels of our equipment. And the karma at the level of the body returns to it. The dharma of the body is karma. Karma meaning just action. And it is the mind of the subtle body that the reactions to actions approve. This was a Punya, it was a good action, good things happen. Papam, I screwed up, bad things happen. But the self is the witness. Any thoughts on this? So we talked at the beginning of this section, actually the beginning of the chapter, how much of this is a review of chapters 3, 4, and 5, which have to do with the very important teaching on karma yoga. 5 pieces of it. Act, O Arjuna. Not going to gain freedom by attempting to speak, to not act. How should I act? According to your inherent latent proclivities, according to your swadharma. In the yajna spirit, do it all as sacrifice. You have a new employer, you're working for God. You have a new boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, God. Make everything sacred. Make everything yajna. Renouncing our attachment to the karma, phala, the fruits of action. My right is to work alone, never to its fruits. Krishna says, I am the karma phaladata. I am the giver of the fruits. One person works very hard, good person, crappy things happen. And some slugabug wins the lottery. In the end, it's all karma. And then the last one, our renunciation of the sense of agency. I am not the doer. It is that karta in the subtle intellect, that function. And what it chooses to do is based on the force of the past, qualities of mind, as it interacts with the society as a whole. You may choose to buy some stock next week. That's your choice, your karma. But if you chose it because the stock market's down, that's a larger karmic structure. Any thoughts on this? The invitation is stay identified with the witness. Stay identified as Brahman. Watch the robot go through its paces, getting its allotted dose of joys and sorrows. No big deal. Problem comes when I, through ignorance, think, I am successful. I am a failure. I am lovable. I am not lovable. That's it. Next one.
Tatrevam sati kartara matmanam kevalam tu yah pashyatya krita buddhitvam sapashyati durmati. Now such being the case, verily, he who, owing to his untrained understanding, looks upon his self, which is with capital S, which is alone, never conditioned by the engine, as the doer, he of perverted intelligence sees not.
Yes. So the foundational practice as we begin our study of Advaita Vedanta, of Jnana Yoga, is Drik Drishya Viveka. Discrimination between the seer and the seen, between the knower and the known. self, and the non-self. So all these, what we call prakarana texts, which are workbooks, go into depth into what our equipment is. And at the end of each discussion, it will say something like, and that cannot be the real self because it has a beginning and an end. It's subject to change. It has qualities and characteristics. Most importantly, it is an object of cognition. But the foolish person attributes to himself the qualities of the not self, the sadhyasa. Here, Krishna calls it that person is a perverted intellect, and that's the root cause of my suffering. Ego says I'm unhappy because I'm not getting what I want. Play whack-a-mole with the world. Yoga says, drop the struggler. You could say, shut up and get out. Stop your mind. Stop all that foolishness. Go who am I? And who you are. Let go. And let the equipment do as it will. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Yasya naham krito bhavo buddhiryasya na lipyate hatva pisa imon lokan hantina nibadhyate. He who is free from the egoistic notion, whose intelligence is not tainted by good or evil, though he slays these people, he slays not, nor is he bound by the action.
Yes. So this is the great secret of the karma yogi. So the person who practices this karma yoga, these 5 steps, most importantly knows I am not the doer. It's the equipment that's doing the doing. I am the witness. And who doesn't get caught up in the reactivity, heat and cold, suffering and pleasure, honor and dishonor. We exhaust vasana without creating new ones. It's like you have a magnetic tape and you have an eraser head. You're erasing the stuff of the mind. Now, the mind essentially functions in a loop. Let me see if I can give you one example. Who here got upset this week?
Me.
Who said that?
Divya.
Divya. What happened?
I was upset with Jack.
Tell me this is the first time you've had this feeling.
No.
I bet you were upset about this sort of stuff before you ever even met Jack.
Yeah.
So what the good Lord is doing is the good Lord brings a similar situation around again and again. I shouldn't call it the good Lord. I should say your karma brings that around. Now, if we're unconscious and we miss the opportunity to do our yoga, life goes, no problem, I'll bring it around again. And again, and again, and again. Until I learn. Let go and keep your heart open. It's that simple. Not easy. It's that simple. Who here has been fearful or anxious about money? Tell me this is the first time you've had that feeling. And your ego says, find security in the world, find security in the world. How's that working out for you? I tell you, no amount of zeros will get rid of the fear. But once we begin to have Ishvara Pranidhana, that's the phrase used in the Yoga Sutra, trustful surrender to God, then our fear of financial insecurity goes away, whether there's money coming in or it's going out. It's not a big deal. But the situation where sometimes the cash comes in and at other times the cash goes out, and you feel safe when the money's coming in and you feel fearful when the money goes out, it's going to keep happening until you drop the fear. And you have all eternity, not this lifetime, the next one, and the one after that, the one after that. For all you know, you were concerned about losing sheep back in the Middle East 3,000 years ago. Same feeling. Until we let it go. So it's of value when I'm upset. Stop, step back a bit. How many times have I felt this? 99.9999% of the time, it's not new. It's not new at all. Sometimes it is. Your mother dies. Only one mother each lifetime. How many lifetimes? How many mothers have you had? How many mothers have you been? But still, for most of us, this is day-to-day annoyances. And if we're not conscious, the opportunity to do toughness goes by. No blame. The universe is very patient and very repetitive. Aren't you tired of it?
Yes.
It's so boring. Aren't you just tired of it? Stop it. It's meaningless. So repetitious. But such is the power of Maya. Oh, I forget how repetitious it is. This seems like it's the first time this happened. Or if it's happened before, he or she still isn't behaving. So, as these cycles of life come, this is our karma. What is our job? To whom did this occur? To me. Kohan. Mind reacts, you watch it. Oh, look at mind reacting. Let it go. It's okay. No big deal. I am not the mind. Ego getting bruised feels like it wants to attack. Oh, look at that. Do our best. Let it go. Any thoughts on this? This puts the eraser head on that loop. And when all the attachments and identifications have been let go, the knowledge of yourself is as clear as a fruit that falls into your hand. Next one.
ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं परिज्ञाता त्रिविधा कर्म चोदना करणं कर्म कर्तेति त्रिविधा कर्म संग्रह. Knowledge, the known and the knower, form the threefold impulse to action. The organs, the action, the agent, form the threefold basis of action.
Okay. So this individual knower of the world, i.e. Jim, the knowing, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, mind, or intellect, the known objects, emotions, and thoughts. All of this phenomenology, this equipment, as it interacts with the phenomenal world. All of that. From what you used to call the BMI chart. Body, mind, intellect, functioning through the perceiver, feeler, thinker, sense in the mind, makes contact with the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts. All of that is impelled by vivasana. All of that and the actions that result. Not self. Just Leela, the play of the Lord. Who am I? Oh. That's the sound the honest one makes. Uninvolved, unattached witness. Any thoughts? Next one.
ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च त्रिधैव गुणभेदत प्रोच्यते गुणसंख्याने यथावत् शृणुताम्यपि. Knowledge, action, and actor are declared in the science of temperaments or gunas to be of three kinds.
So now, go ahead.
Of three kinds only, according to the distinctions of temperaments, hear them also duly.
So we've talked about actions and things like that. Now he's going to talk about various kinds of knowledge that we can have according to the gunas, the three temperaments. Let's see what he says.
Go to the next one.
That last one, just introduce the next subject.
Sarva bhuteshu yenekam bhavamavyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnanam viddhi sattvikam. That by which one sees the one indestructible reality in all beings, undivided in the divided, know that knowledge as sattvic or pure.
So when the mind is in pure sattva, we see reality as it is. What do we mean by that? I know myself as pure consciousness. Chidananda Rupaham. I am of the form of bliss consciousness. And what is this world? These two scriptural statements which we need to reconcile. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world, the Jagat, is illusion. Chandogya says, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is verily Brahman. Well, make up your mind. Is it illusion or is it Brahman? Yes. So the woman of wisdom is very clear through her direct experience that what appears as a world of name and form is nothing but the play of Chaitanya, consciousness itself. Appearing as name and form, like pratibimba, like the images in a mirror. The mirror doesn't change. If Deepa looks into the mirror or I look into the mirror. If Santosh and Deepa and I, all three of us look into the mirror, there's not multiplicity in the mirror. The mirror is Deepa. It hasn't moved or changed at all. So the whole world appears to rise and fall and wave and do all its things. But in truth, it's all Brahman. Nothing really. Not going to do it tonight, but some of you have seen me bring out my crystal ball, which is spatika. It's stone. And that stone, the little prayer stone, is granite, both rocks. But the prayer stone has no capacity to reflect. It's java, it's inert. But the spatika, crystal, you can see images in it. But I can't take a saw and cut open the stone, pull up the images. Are they there or are they not there? They appear to be there, but it's an illusion. What's there is stone. So also, what appears as the universe is like the images in the crystal ball. What's really here is consciousness, which never moves, never changes, is still. Which is why Krishna can say, nobody kills, nobody's going to die in this war. That which is Bhava, being, both sides of the army, is untouched by the drama. This is not a teaching we give to beginners. Somebody's mother dies, you don't say, oh, you grieve for whom you should not grieve. Nobody dies. Get over it. That's cool. Meet people where they are. But you know inside, yeah, nobody's born. Nobody really dies. It's like a long, vivid dream. Ram Dass says, even dying is completely safe. Next verse. So the Sattvic mind sees the self in all, not just the self in me. It's not I am Brahman and you're a worm. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is verily God. Next verse.
Prithakvena tu yajnanam nana bhavan prithakvidhan vitti sarveshu bhuteshu tajnanam vitti rajasam. But that knowledge which sees in all beings various entities of distinct kinds and as different from one another, know that knowledge as rajasic or passionate.
So if the mind, even though you're happy and content most of the time, you have some sattva. If it's tinged with rajas, you're going to see difference. You're going to see different people, different things. And this person is good and that person is bad. And I love and like this person annoys me. Otherness. If you are perceiving the world in that way, then no blame. But your mind is tinged with rajas. That's your knowledge. So this is why I like to give this slogan. This is your fortune cookie in the dream. So if you're having a dream and you got a fortune cookie and the little fortune says, don't believe anything that's going on, you're dreaming. So the fortune cookie in the dream of this world is this. If I think I'm a person, I am deluded. Stop. Introvert the attentive faculty. Notice yourself. And in a sattvic mind, with the attentive faculty introverted, that chit-chaya, that phony self, that shadow self falls. And instead you see chidakasha, the space of consciousness. Next verse.
Yattu kritsnavadekasmin karye saktamahetukam atatvarthavadalpam cha tattamas mudahritam. But that knowledge which clings to one single effect, as if it were the whole, without reason, without foundation in truth and narrow, that is declared to be tamasic or dull.
So we're talking about here about people whose knowledge is, as it were, obsessive or compulsive, where we narrowly focus in on just one thing. You decide, my ex was horrible, he's ruined my life, and I'm going to spend all my time and energy focusing on that. I can't go to work. I can't spend time being happy with my friends. I'm just going to obsess about this tragedy or the loss of a child or the loss of a business we get that like blinders on, totally focused. That's tamasic knowledge. I would say also, to add to this, there are some people who take on phony spirituality. They can't deal with this world. So in their imagination, they make up the world. Oh, I'm channeling spirits and they're telling me to do this. Oh, I'm just so exhausted because so-and-so is draining my energy and stuff like that. And, I'm just not going to pay attention in the world. I'm not of this world. I don't have to pay my rent. I don't have to get a job, stuff like that. I'm dealing with the higher stuff. Nonsense. That's a tamasic knowledge, which masquerades as spirituality. Krishna says this knowledge makes you master of this world and the beyond. Any thoughts on this?
I have a quick one, Jim.
Sure.
Tamasic knowledge sounds like you're saying it's when you get a little obsessed or blinders, but I'm assuming in sattva you can do that too. Like you can get focused on the things that are, purposeful for you.
Give me an example.
I don't know, like whatever your purpose is in life, you get focused on that rather than worrying about the noise.
I don't know that I would call that tamasic. So for example, let's say someone's a musician and they're absolutely focused on their music and their career. I'm not sure I would call that tamasic because they're moving through, they're accomplishing their goal. Bottom line is the tamasic knowledge, you're usually unhappy.
So you're obsessed and unhappy. The other one's you're obsessed but happy.
I'm not sure I would call it obsessed. The examples I was using is when we return to the past and obsess over some event or some person or some slight or some hurt. That's different, I think, than being aligned and attuned with your passion in life. Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
Good question.
So,
All right,
Jim, could I clarify or ask a follow-up to this question?
certainly.
So when you're driven and you're thinking about the future and you're passionate about what you do, is that rajasic or is
Yes,
that
that's Rajasic.
so it's not sattvic though?
No,
Okay.
Interesting. So then I'm still confused, I guess.
Because
When does sattva play a part? Because the 5 things the 5 action points that from chapter 5. I assumed maybe it's an assumption
that
that you do
karma
that.
yoga is for Rajasic people.
Okay. The whole thing is rajasic.
It is for people who have vasana pressure, which drives us into the world. I want to accomplish this. I want to excel at that. I want to start this business. I want to get that. I want to get this partner. I want to have these children. I want to buy this house. There's nothing wrong with that. Just understand that's a Rajasic mind. Vast majority of us have it. Very few of us are sattvic.
and if you're in a sattva condition, would you just kind of surrender?
Go there and find out.
I don't know what they do.
You don't need to find
What
out
does
what
sattvic
you
people
do with a sattvic mind. They may just live their lives. They may look like ordinary people. But you can tell when someone is jonesing in their heart.
Jim, is it possible to have a sattvic mind on some parts of your life, but not other parts of your life?
I didn't hear that. Say it
Is
again.
it possible to have a sattvic mind in some parts of your life, but not all parts of your life?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. The mind is always cycling through the gunas. All right, next verse.
But sattvic minds are still performing action.
Mhm. They may or they may not.
But I thought they have to. I thought the body's mission is to perform action.
But the sattvic mind, pure sattva, is the same as self-realization.
Mhm.
Mixed sattva is the mumukshu, the one who's a seeker after liberation.
Mhm.
The rajasic mind, maybe a little bit of sattva. I love this world. I want things in the world. I may go to satsang once a week, sometimes. The tamasic mind, wish I could get active in the world, but Scotch does a better job. Next one.
Niyatam sangarahitam ragadveshatta krittamam afala prepsuna karma yattat sattvika muchyate. An action which is ordained, which is free from attachment, which is done without love or hatred, by one who is not desirous of fruit. That action is declared to be sattvic or pure.
Yes. So niyatam karmas, the exoteric meaning, means the various rituals that are prescribed, largely here for Brahmins. Some of you may have come from families where you grew up and you do puja in the morning, or on certain holidays you did these yajnas, you fasted here and there. Who came from families where that was done? See, those are what we call our niyatam karmas. Those are the obligatory duties according to your particular caste and ashrama station in life. But there's a much subtler meaning. Niyatam karmas basically mean do your duty in the world. Where you are right now is perfect. But I hate my job. It's perfect. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Oh, I'm so lonely and I don't have a partner. It's perfect. It's exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Now, to use the modern language, be woke. What's this situation teaching me? Why? Because nobody else brought that situation to you than yourself. It is nothing but your own karma maturing. Nobody else did it. Christians say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I have been told the Chinese proverb is don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you. But yoga says it will be done unto you as you've done unto others at some point in your life or other lives. It will come back. And how we respond rather than react is the point of power. Can you practice titiksha? Who remembers the definition of titiksha?
Forbearance.
Yes. Meaning, when the pinpricks of life come, can we refrain from needing to react with revenge or resentment, punishing? Any thoughts on this? So if you've got a job, do your job. If you're supposed to be in a different job, that'll happen. It will become clear. You don't necessarily have to love a crappy job, but you do need to come to a point of neutrality. We've talked about attaining to yoga rudha, mounting the steed of the mind. Let's say you have a job. You don't like it. You don't like your coworkers. You don't like the work. What if you had to be in that job for the rest of eternity? I love that meditation. Oh, my stock portfolio is down 20%. What if the stock market's in a bear market for the rest of eternity? Till all your savings are gone. What are you going to do? Can you just stop wishing it were different than it is? And accept that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Right now, not forever. Right now. And do your best with a shitala manasa, a cool mind, cool. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Yattu kamepsuna karma sahamkarena va punaha kriyate bahulayasam tadraja samudayirtam. But that action which is done by one, longing for desires or gain, done with egoism or with much effort, is declared to be rajasic or passionate.
So starting from the end, if I'm fighting and struggling life, if I'm trying to make things happen, to get my way, it's probably not where you're supposed to be. You're filled with a desire. I must have this. I've gotta have that. And there's vancha, wanting. All rooted in the idea that getting what I want is going to make me happy. And you hear all these slogans, ride the horse in the direction it's going. I always think of the person who's on the horse backwards, trying to get the horse to go backward. Is that how we're living our lives? Or, float down the river of life. Let things unfold. We know that. But we're skillful. Let the energy do its thing. The other one I like is a bud is not a failure as a bloom. What happens if you get a dozen roses and they're all buds? I don't want buds, I want blooms. So do you start tearing the buds? What happens if you do that? You destroy them. What do you have to do? Wait. And trust. Any thoughts on this? Okay, one more, we'll do the Tamasic one and then we'll go tonight.
Anubandham kshayam himsam naveksha cha paurusham mohadarabhyate karma yattattamasamuchyate. That action which is undertaken from delusion, without regard for the consequence, loss, injury, and ability, is declared to be tamasic or dull.
So the biggest trap that most of us fall into is we do not see that the end point, the effect, is the means in a different form. I had a young man that I've been working with, fabulous musician, wonderful singer, incredibly creative. And he was working as an academic administrator. And at one of our sessions, he says, well, I just want to wait till I can save enough money so I can be independent and I can do my music. And what I said to him is, if you stay as a academic administrator for 20 years, at the end of 20 years, you will not be a musician. You'll be just a very good administrator. If you want to be a singer, now start singing. Start now. Don't postpone your life. This is not a rehearsal. And then my slogan you've heard me say a lot, fighting for peace is like fornicating for chastity. Fighting will produce more fighting. Well, I need to teach them a lesson. Stupid. This is why yogis practice satyam, truthfulness, straightforwardness. Because that's what's going to come back to you. Oh, I'm so lonely, Jim. Nobody calls me. Nobody loves me. Well, isolation is not a particularly good strategy for intimacy. That's what happens if you isolate. You get aloneness. Become the friend you seek. Become the lover you seek. You know what I want people to call me? So what? Get over your cheap self. Pick up the phone. You reach out. Become what you wish. Any thoughts on this? All right, we'll quit here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. I know some of you have to run, but